Yeah, obviously, like we've been saying before, Brother Sheikh, a lot of there've been a lot of surprises. Obviously, I for one, I have to say, I when I left home, I did think Bafana could get out of the group. I did think they could possibly get through last 16, depending on where they finish and who the opposition is. But to get to the semi-finals, whoa, the last time Bafana got to the semi-finals was in 2000. Assistant coach Helman Kelele was still a player, so that tells you the significance of that. But overall, yes, it's been an AFCON of shocks. But all four teams, maybe for me, the other two semi-finalists, they rode their luck a little bit. Cote d'Ivoire firing a coach and then being able to, to get the troops together again to pull off performances like they have been. DRC getting as far as they did with the quarterfinals without really winning a game in open play, but eventually turning it around and scoring 3 goals to 1. Of course, and then Bafana in Nigeria. I think those that would have been my ideal final because on the balance of play, I think those are the teams that have scored goals, have had some big wins, some big players, some big individual performances as well from just different quality players. But you can't bake your cake and eat it and put the cherry on top. You can't have everything the way you want it. So they are in the semi-finals, and obviously one of them will get to meet either Cote d'Ivoire or DRC, which it will be a good final either way. At this stage, when the last four, they've one would argue they've deserved their spot, and they're all tough teams. It's a tough one because it's what do you mind over heart or mind over heart, because my head says Nigeria are strong, and possibly are trying to repeat what they did in South Africa in 2013. And the irony of it now, or the coincidence of it now, is that they are playing Bafana South Africa for a place to try and get to the final and do what they did. But I think Cote d'Ivoire have got the momentum now, and they could maybe edge it over DRC and reach the final. And it's a tough one to call. Like I said, my heart wants Bafana to win another AFCON title, but they're also facing a strong Super Eagles team. So, yeah, that one, you'll have to forgive me. I can't predict there because I'm too conflicted as to who I think is deserving, and who I think is the best team, because I think they've equally played quite well.
It's Nigeria, of course. I'm in Nigeria, so it's going to be Nigeria. But if we're to be a little bit more technical, um, South Africa do know they have their work cut out for them because they are playing arguably the best team in this tournament based on results, based on defense, and based on general play. It's been difficult for any team to beat Nigeria. And if I'm not mistaken, Nigeria are the only team left in this competition that have not actually gone to penalties. So it's been straight ways for them and smooth sailing for them. Save their first game against Equatorial Guinea, which ended 1-1. They've been able to overcome and overpower every other opponent that have come their way. So that will be worrisome to the South Africans and the Bafana. And the rivalry between Nigeria and South Africa, when you look at the head-to-head, it favors Nigeria heavily. The last time we met at the Nations Cup was in 2019, and Nigeria actually won that particular game in the quarterfinals, progressing to the semifinals. So you look at that on the scale of balance. At the moment, it seems it's going to be for Nigeria. Yes, because it seems the god of soccer has best Cote d'Ivoire at the moment because literally they are scaling through narrowly. They are really riding their luck. And the unfortunate thing about luck is that sometimes we all run out of luck. So now the big question is what would actually happen if they run out of luck? That would mean that they will need to go into that game focused, prepared, and ready to deliver from the get go. If they allow things overwhelm them and they're always waiting for a comeback, it might not pan out as expected.
First of all, when you look at the four teams that have qualified for the semi-finals of the Africa Cup of Nations, are the teams that have stood out. It is very hard to say this was the worst team at the competition and stuff like that, especially the teams that have gone far. Nigeria have been getting better each passing game. I mean, one of the teams with the best defensive record in the competition. When you look at South Africa, a team they are going to be facing, it is a team that has also taken care of their business with a lot of discipline and technical abilities, all the way from the group stages into the semi-finals. I mean, the manner in which they dispatched Morocco, everyone continues to be impressed. But also how they managed to contain Cape Verde for 120 minutes for them to eventually get into penalties and get into the semi-finals, you can't say was remarkable. Ivory Coast, ever since they lost that game against Guinea, Equatorial Guinea in the last group, and everyone thought they were out of the competition. You thought they have given a good account of themselves. They have not really performed to the expectations of many, but they know how to get results. They have had ready luck on their side ever since they got into the knockout stages, and that has really worked in their favor, and they have gotten themselves here. And you believe they can continue to ride on that to get themselves into the final. But of course, they are taking on a DRC side that has also upset a few teams getting here. They were very convincing in that 3-1 against Guinea. Their coach, Sebastian Desabre, promised a good game. He gave us a good game. But he also thought that they were very, 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 I would say, determined to knock out Egypt, the manner in which they knocked out Egypt. So you look at all the four teams that are here, and you get this gut feeling that they deserve to be here. They've worked very hard to be here. And without a doubt, we are going to have two interesting games on Wednesday. Well, I would love to see DR Congo in the final. I would tip DR Congo for me to qualify ahead of Ivory Coast. But like I said, Ivory Coast have had that X factor in this competition, so you cannot throw them out. But I'm tipping DR Congo to qualify for the finals. South Africa have suffered at the hands of Nigeria the last two editions. I mean, you're talking about 2019, they knocked them out in the quarterfinals. The last time South Africa qualified for the semifinals in 2000, Nigeria knocked them out to make the final. You feel Nigeria will come into this one as favorites, but yes, I'm going to go with South Africa. So I'm looking at a final that will have South Africa and DR Congo. That is my dream final.
Yes, Sheikh, I think that it is going to be Nigeria versus Hugo Bruce. Hugo Bruce is an experienced coach. He won the AFCON with Cameroon in 2017, and he has actually molded this particular South African team, been with the team for so many years throughout the qualifiers. For more than 3 to 4 years, he's still working with them, trying to get the best out of them. And looking at the teams that Nigeria have met, this is going to be the toughest manager or tactician that Jose Pesero is going to meet when it comes to the competition and how to even structure a team. South Africa is coming into this game after keeping 4 consecutive clean sheets. Nigeria is coming into this particular semi-final with good record when it comes to their defensive structure. So it's a game of defending, let me say, huge defending potentials coming into contest in this particular encounter. And you will feel that it will take something like 1 goal margins to separate them, or it can even go on penalty shootouts. But I think Nigeria have something that South Africa doesn't have. They have enough men who have the X factor. When I talk about the X factor, players that can create something out of nothing. So you look at Moses Simon, you look at Ademola Lookman, and you look at Victor Osimhen. South Africa can keep them quiet, but I think just one moment that could define the game. If there's one team that could give you that, I'll give it to Nigeria. So Nigeria in and around 50% win percentage for me, South Africa 45% win percentage for me. Then I look at DR Congo and Ivory Coast. How DR Congo also set up their team. I think they are one of the most tactically disciplined teams in the competition. Their coach said something before the quarterfinal match against Guinea, and he probably said that this AFCON is all about work. So you need to show your workings, and I think they've done that. In their structure, if you have Chancellor Mbemba leading the head of defense, Ata Musaku operating as a left wing back when they are defending, attacking, solid as a left winger. You look at Sami Mutusami, who has been solid in the midfield for them. I think they have a team to keep Ivory Coast quiet for enough part of the game. Then they have Wisa, who can give you that particular killer instinct when it comes to chances creation and scoring at some point in time. But don't take away that Ivory Coast have been moved by, or they've been resurrected, looking at what happened to them before they came back to life. And they were nearly out of the competition, but something happened and it overturned. So look at how they've been able to squeeze out results. The mentality is working on their behalf. They have fans behind them, and they are doing so well in recent games in terms of mentality. How they've been able to overturn some sort of results into positivity. So I think what will give Ivory Coast the urge over DR Congo is the fans and the mentality they've been playing with. They have enough quality though. They have some experienced players in the team though, but I believe Congo can match them boot for boot when it comes to that. But the only difference is going to be about their mentality and the fans behind them. So I also give Ivory Coast 60% in terms of qualifying to the final, then 40% to DRC also qualifying. I know DRC can cause a havoc. I wouldn't be surprised if they eliminate Ivory Coast. But there's one thing I'm assured of. If Ivory Coast have beaten Senegal, found a way to also around Mali, I think they can do more than that in finding their way against the Congo.